Hello and welcome again to Best Boys. No, wait, shit, that's the wrong pod. I have like 6 different podcasts. Let me try that again.
I do that all the time too. I say, go out and play some Marvel, go out and play some Street Fighter when I'm making a Dragon Ball video.
Alright. Alright, and hello, and welcome once again to another Guest Boys. This time, I've got Rooflemonger. And then you can go ahead and go.
Oh. Okay. Sorry, I was waiting for a more direct line of question in there. Yeah, okay. Hello, I am Rooflemonger. I run a fighting game YouTube channel. I mostly do tutorials, info, and all that kind of stuff for fighting games. I'm currently most famous, if you want to put it that way, for Dragonball FighterZ, but I do cover all sorts of fighting games.
Yep, I started playing Dragonball FighterZ when it came out about, is it 2 or 3 months ago?
It would have been close to 3 months now.
When I bought the game, I had to get 3 months of PlayStation Plus, and I just got that charged to my card yesterday. So yeah, 3 months almost exactly. It's a really fun game. I've been watching a lot of your videos there for general mechanics, because the tutorials in the game aren't very good for that.
No, they're
not. So these videos have been really cool. We'll go ahead and we'll open it up with some easy peasy questions. When did you first get introduced to Dragon Ball Z?
For me, I actually watched the original Dragon Ball on I'm Canadian, for those of you who do not know, on YTV, that's youth television, and so I watched the original Dragon Ball, so I knew all about Dragon Ball before Dragon Ball Z even started, at least when it started airing in Canada. So I've been basically a fan since the start for Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, for myself, I would watch. I started watching it when it was on Toonami. It would show up after schools. And me and my older brother and my younger brother, we would all watch. I think I started watching in the Frieza saga, and they went up right to the end, and it started it over because they didn't have the episodes in time. So
yeah, I've heard about that for the American broadcasts.
Yep. So we got to watch the entire thing over. I remember watching Dragon Ball Z. Our mom would take us back from school, and we would stay at her work for like 20 minutes before she got to go home. We would just go to like the break room. I remember watching it on the little tiny TV they had there. It was a 6-inch by 6-inch TV, and we watched Dragon Ball Z on it. But that's how I got into it. I did actually read the Dragon Ball manga when I was in middle school, I think, about 7th or 8th grade. I really liked it because it was it was a lower power level than Dragon Ball Z. Goku wasn't facing world-destroying threats.
It's more martial arts based.
Yeah, and it was more little kids on an adventure is always a fantastic premise. Never gets old. And Dragon Ball's good. Dragon Ball Z is good. Dragon Ball Super, I'll touch on that in a little bit. But first, quick 3. Who's your favorite Dragon Ball hero, villain, and moment of the series? For me, my favorite hero is Hercule, because Hercule is he's the dude. He starts as this big jerk with a big ego, but he's a genuinely nice guy who just has his faults. He's really endearing, and he's the fucking dude. I never get tired of him. My favorite villain is Cell, because Cell is perfect, smug, and really intimidating. And the best moment in the Dragon Ball Z series is the Super Spirit Bomb against Kid Buu, because Hercule saves the world.
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate, actually. It's totally on him. He facilitated the whole thing.
He's the dude.
Yeah, he is. He's pretty good. As for me, my favorite character in Dragon Ball, and this is going to be more of an oddball answer, but it's still true, is Tien.
Yeah, my best friend Alex would agree with you. He thinks Tien is his favorite character.
Yeah, I grew up watching the original Dragon Ball first, right? So I got the hot dose of Tien right off the bat. Obviously, Z, his moments were less than, Dragon Ball originally. And he was straight up character assassinated in Super. But, even in Z, and this will play into some other stuff I don't like about Dragon Ball as a whole, or specifically Z and Super. The moment where he holds off Cell, right? That's one of the best moments in the Team 4-Star version, because, it's talk about, you're just a human. But, just a human can still hold off the big bad for a while. I like his very martial arts-based style. When stuff got more crazy about the energy stuff, I like the fact that, his moves were more, for lack of a better term, suicide based. Like it was so strong that it would tear you apart to use him. Mm-hmm. And like he's got.
See, I don't actually play Tien in FighterZ. Does the Neo Tri-Beams actually hurt him?
Yeah, you can. If you burn all 7 bars, it'll bring him to 1 health.
Oh wow, that's cool. That's cool as shit.
But if you burn all 7 bars, it does the most damage in the game. Yeah, Tien has the highest damage in the game overall. Because of that stuff.
Man, is it like a Kuma syndrome where he's got really high damage, but besides
no, because he's only so balance wise. But like if you use the Chaozu suicide attack, that has the best scaling of any super in the game, meaning it's effectively the most damaging super in the game, the Chaozu suicide attack.
Because you can end a combo with a boom, big explosion,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah, but you only get to do it once because Chaozu's gone, he's gone. And the moves where Tien uses Chaozu no longer work once Chaozu explodes.
Now, if you use the Dragon Balls, does Chaozu come back if you revive Tien? Actually,
no.
Probably not?
No. He is a one and done. Okay. If the move misses, you can do it again, but once he explodes, that's it.
Huh. All right, what about the villain, though? Who's your favorite villain? I think I know the answer.
Well, I have a most hated villain. My most hated villain, and once again, I have very different views on Dragon Ball than a lot of people. My most hated villain is Goku. Because I honestly believe Goku is a bad person. And like I'm not even talking about the whole bad dad jokes and all that stuff. I think he's an active threat to humanity as a whole.
I don't know. I mean, he gave a sensu bean to Cell, just to see if Gohan could do it. It's fine. Goku's a hero. I like Goku. He's my second favorite.
I've literally gone like half-hour rants at multiple times on my Twitch streams about my opinions on Goku. But as for proper villain, my favorite villain is definitely Majin Buu, specifically Fat Majin Buu.
Majin Buu, there's something about Majin Buu that his voice should be like irritating and annoying, and his mannerisms should be a pain in the ass, but something about it isn't. It's kind of like Hercule, and I think that's also why him and Hercule became friends, is that they're just... Buu is like a small child with a lot of power.
Yeah, well, that's exactly
doesn't really know how to apply it. So then once people stop being a jerk to him, he's just like the whole scene where he flies out there and there's that blind kid, and Boo like tries to threaten him. Yeah, and then the kid's like, "I can't see you," so he heals his eyes, and then Boo goes and gets him like a carton of milk. Mm-hmm. It's just he's a weird villain.
Well, he subverts so much of what Dragon Ball villains are. Like, even going back to old Dragon Ball, like Tien, Master Crane, Tao Pai Pai, King Piccolo. Then, like, you go to Vegeta, then Frieza and Cell. And they're all, like, hyper arrogant, super full of their own crap and all that kind of stuff. And then Majin Buu is just childlike, He doesn't have no goals other than just, like, want to have a bit of fun. Like, everything about him is so different than the usual formula they portray.
Yeah, Super Buu always felt to me like an evil version of Goku. He was just running around doing things.
Yeah, Super Buu for me is the lamest Dragon Ball Z villain. I also like Kid Buu, because I like Kid Buu and like he's basically feral, and he's like a little chimpanzee boy, going, just beating his chest, going, oh, like that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just Super Buu.
I didn't like Kid Buu. I don't know. I was a little small child, so I don't know why he just didn't appeal to me.
But yeah, Super Buu is just another in the long line of like arrogant guys, and Cell and Frieza did it so much better than he does it. But Majin Buu and to a lesser extent Kid Buu, they subvert the usual bad guy like dynamic in Dragon Ball, so that's why I like them the most.
It's actually kind of interesting. It seems, and I have absolutely no data to back this up other than my own like exposure, that most popular Dragon Ball villains seem to rotate depending on like. In Japan, Frieza's the most popular.
Oh, yeah,
in America, Cell seems to be the most popular. And then in Central America, it seems to be Buu. Like Super Buu and Kid Buu. It's kind of weird how it just kind of rotates over there.
Yeah, it's more... Dragon Ball's definitely a very regional thing, and people like different things based on the region.
Mm-hmm. But, so what's your favorite moment of the series?
All right, my favorite moment, and this is once again... it has to do with Vegeta, and Vegeta is nowhere near my favorite character. I don't dislike him, but he's nowhere near my favorite character. And this will be controversial to some, because it has everything to do with the American soundtrack. So, my favorite moment is the Final Flash. And
when he first does it?
Yeah, and it has everything to do with the original soundtrack that played in North America. So, like, the piano tuning up and all that kind of stuff.
It's talking about the
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, I fucking love that.
So
theme.
in like the original Japanese version and Kai and all that stuff, it's silent, and it to me robs the whole scene of all of its emotion. Like there's no background music, it's just them yelling.
He does the Final Flash as Majin Vegeta, right?
Well, no, the original Final Flash is versus Cell when Cell just turned perfect. But yeah,
see the theme for Majin Vegeta, or not Majin Vegeta, Vegeta's like the little do thing.
Yeah.
I always think of that because I had the Legacy of Goku Game Boy Advance game, and there's a whole like a large segment of the game where you're hunting down Cell, and it just plays that theme like throughout it and in every one of his fights. So it's like ingrained into me.
All right, so for those who are listening who are Dragon Ball Super fans, I'll just say this. Bruce Faulkner owns the original Japanese score and deal with it.
I actually saw the two movies. I found them on YouTube with the Faulkner soundtrack, and it
sounds
was way better.
It's way better.
It was, oh my god, it doesn't even compare.
Like when they have that they have the same music play during the That's My Bulma scene, and that makes that scene 10 times better.
Yep. Like, there was one thing he did that I knew wasn't very good, but I enjoyed it so much, and it was in his Battle of the Gods one, fucking when they're fighting in the rock, it starts playing.
Oh, and they played Rock the Dragon,
which I know is that's strictly an American thing. It never shown in any other region.
That's not even a Canadian thing. We had a different version of the theme song in Canada.
Ooh,
most people
the Canadian theme like?
It just says
Was it just
Dragon, Rock the Dragon like 20 times, and that's it.
Yeah, just Rock the Dragon, Come Get Me, and then a bunch of guitar riffs, and then a bunch of clips from the movies, because the movies were better animated than the show. But like, anything.
I'm actually adding something, and my own memory is playing tricks on me. It doesn't say Rock the Dragon. The Canadian version, it says Dragon, Dragon Ball Z. That's it. Over and over and over. It's widely considered the worst version of all the intros.
Now, I know that Dragon Ball Super just recently, about a month ago, is done. They finished the series with the final bad Jiren the Grey. And now, with Dragon Ball, I have tried listening to the subs, like watching it. I can't do it. My first match of Dragon Ball FighterZ, I went into a game, the Japanese audio was on, I quit the match, turned it to English, and then went back, because I can't do it. It's impossible. So for Dragon Ball Super, I'm just slowly following along with the dub. Like, they just started fighting fucking Zamasu.
I do prefer the dub as well, but for the purpose of Dragon Ball Super and, like, you know, just being current, I did watch the whole thing as it was airing in Japan.
Yeah, so I feel bad because, you know, just from exposure to the internet, I kind of know each, you know, major twist that's going to happen.
Yeah, like, there's no way you could avoid, like, all the Jiren stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah. But how do you feel about Dragon Ball Super? I actually... If I hadn't watched Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, I probably wouldn't recommend it, because it's really... It's, like, silly, and just... It's objectively not that good, but to me, I really enjoy how
Dragon Ball Super is Dragon Ball for already established Dragon Ball fans. So I don't think it's going to bring in too many new fans, but as a whole, like, objectively, probably not as good as Z. But it still has its moments. Like, the Goku Black arc is airing in America right now, I believe, and that's a fantastic arc.
It is a really cool idea.
The dub apparently has a lot of choice moments. Like, they know the worst part of Super is the Goo Vegeta arc. And apparently Goo Vegeta...
See, was that even an arc? That was only like 5 episodes.
It's a mini arc, basically. It was a filler arc. But the voice of Goo Vegeta, my understanding, is the Canadian Vegeta. So I find that intensely amusing.
Yep, because the original Vegeta was Brian Drummond, I think?
Drummond, yeah. So that's Canadian Vegeta.
Yeah, and then Chris Sagat?
Sagat, yeah.
Sagat, yeah, he did Vegeta after the... intro there. The first, 30 episodes of Dragon Ball Super are so slow, because it just goes over the 2 movies.
The movies. But, like, if you already seen those movies, I honestly would recommend a newer viewer just to skip right after that.
I would argue against that. For one thing, the amount of Hercule scenes in that is godlike. He's in, every single episode. Just
the only things I would really say is... the scene with, the mini tournament where he fights, the aliens. And that's also where he shows
then
him...
Goku shows up.
Yeah.
It's Hercule's great. I love it.
And it shows...
you can do anything with Hercule and I'll watch it.
Yeah, Hercule beating Beerus, the Dark Lord, because he doesn't know how to say Beerus right. And Ginyu briefly shows up again in the Frieza retelling of the movie.
See, I liked what they did with Ginyu in Dragon Ball Super. I knew he was going to die immediately, but I'm so glad Ginyu showed up again. Because here's the thing, the biggest problem I have with Dragon Ball Super is that everyone is at such a high power level that it kind of loses the impact.
Well, that for me was, as a Dragon Ball original fan going Dragon Ball Z, then all of a sudden, like, within 2 seconds of showing up, shows Vegeta can, like, destroy planets. Like, it's such a massive scale up from the power of the original Dragon Ball.
Yeah, like, everyone's so strong now. The moment it really became apparent to me was when Golden Frieza came back, and it's like, oh no, guys, the Frieza Force is here. Like, who gives a fuck about the Frieza Force?
Yeah,
they already fought Cell and Boo. Like, who gives a shit about the Frieza Force?
Yeah.
Literally no one cares. So it kind of creates this huge divide where it's like, yeah, they already beat fucking Kid Buu. Like, there's no... I guess, whatever. And then Beerus also pretty much just being Piccolo 2.0 was kind of lame, but...
No, he ain't watching after the baby, so he's not quite Piccolo yet.
He's not as friendly. He, like, pretends to not care more than Piccolo does. But yeah, Dragon Ball Super, I'm having fun with it just because I was such a big Dragon Ball fan. So, by the time that the dub catches up to the end of the series, the new movie will probably be out, and I'm sure there'll be something else, and all that good shit. But, yeah, so...
But I find it's good fan service for Dragon Ball fans.
Oh, yeah. So, Dragon Ball Z is great. Well, let's go on to fighting games. So, When did you start playing fighting games?
I started in, well, technically, like, I played, like, Karateka on the Commodore and all that, and that is technically a fighting games, but I started basically when Street Fighter 2 launched in 1991.
Really?
Yes.
Now, was it, like, right after it launched, or was it, like...
when my town in Quebec got it. I'm sure it was out earlier, 91. I got it in late 91.
Around how old were you when you first started playing it?
91, so I would have been 8 years old.
Oh, we got an old man over here.
Yeah, well, that's the one beauty of fighting games is I am 34 years old, and I'm about middle age for the fighting community, like an average age, a median. A lot of the fighting community is closer to 40 than anything else, especially on the pro side.
Yeah, it takes time to get good at fighting games. Myself, I really only got into it. There was a streaming website that I would go on to called Dat Stream. We would all get together, and there was a bunch of people who liked fighting games. They were playing, like, Third Strike and stuff like that. Yeah. Street Fighter 4, like, just came out, and, like... Street Fighter 4, is it safe to say that it, like, pretty much revived fighting games? Or was it... I don't know if it revived it, or if I just didn't notice or care at all until Street Fighter 4 came out.
I think it's very fair to say,
got together, and everyone was everyone was really fucking hyped, and they were watching EVO, and that's when I first started playing.
Yeah. I think it's very fair to say Street Fighter 4 was kind of the cause of the revival of fighting games in the mainstream. There was games who held the torch. Like, Soul Calibur continued to sell well, despite fighting games being quote-unquote dead, and every Mortal Kombat, even the bad ones like Armageddon and MK vs. DC, still sold millions and millions and millions of copies, right? But in the late 90s, a combination of the arcade scene failing all throughout North America, and like stuff like Street Fighter 3, I know a lot of people who hear about Street Fighter 3 and Third Strike in particular, they think a lot of people hold it in like very high esteem and all that. Street Fighter 3 basically killed fighting games in North America. A lot of people don't know that, because the game only really launched with Ryu. That was it. Ryu and a bunch of new people that no one ever heard of or cared of. And except for Tekken 3, no fighting game who has junked the majority of their cast for, you know, some quote-unquote new challengers. Except for Tekken 3, it's never worked and it's never been successful. And combined with the failing arcade scene, Street Fighter 3 basically kind of killed off fighting games for quite a while in North America. Like, once again, Soul Calibur and some of the versions of Mortal Kombat still sold quite well, but it was Street Fighter 4 which kind of brought everything back to the forefront.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat's always been kind of a weird, like, franchise, because the only people I know of that are, like, really into Mortal Kombat are people who don't play fighting games. You know, they'll play Mortal Kombat to do, like, the story mode, which, real shit, Mortal Kombat 9 story mode was actually a ton of fun, and I really, really, really liked it, where it just played out like a movie, and it had like...
Still has not been topped. And I'll tell you right now, I am one of those people who are super Mortal Kombat fans. The competitive Mortal Kombat community is not as big as like the competitive Street Fighter community, but we're still here. Like, I play a lot of games competitively, though, so not just like one or two, but there is a scene for it, and a lot of people there are hyper dedicated to it.
Yeah. But just... It feels like Mortal Kombat's the biggest, it has the broadest appeal for fighting game.
Oh, absolutely. North America, yeah.
If someone who plays something, they don't play any fighting games, so they'll play Mortal Kombat, or they'll buy Mortal Kombat when it comes out, play it for a few weeks, and then move on.
Yeah.
Like, when I asked the same person, like, hey, did you play Marvel? They're like, nah, I don't like Marvel. Or, nah, I didn't really like, I didn't play Injustice. I didn't play, Skullgirls.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. It's always Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, well, Mortal Kombat 2, for someone who's a little older like me, it's... If you weren't around for, like, 92, 93, the peak of, like, Mortal Kombat fever, it's hard to explain, but, like, Mortal Kombat was the single biggest game in North America, period. Nothing came close. Not even Street Fighter 2. Mortal Kombat was the single people like their Fortnites and their Dotas and all that stuff today. That was Mortal Kombat back then. And now a lot of people who were, original Mortal Kombat crew growing up with it, now they have kids and, parents force their kids to like what they like. And Mortal Kombat's held its own appeal, just period, before, like on its own, right? So that's why Mortal Kombat games like sell 10 million when normal fighting games might sell like 1 million.
Yep. Dragonball FighterZ, I think, is actually the best-selling Dragon Ball Z game ever?
It is both.
I saw that, but I wasn't 100% if that was true.
It is both the fastest-selling Dragon Ball game of all time and the best-selling Dragon Ball game of all time. Not even that long ago, Xenoverse was the one who broke the original Xenoverse is the one that broke those records. And then
now, have you played Xenoverse?
I played a lot of Xenoverse, yes.
Okay, so what I was wondering, because I haven't played any of Xenoverse, I know that there's like a lot of fun stuff they do. Like you can join like a villain's side, kind of like you can work underneath Raditz,
yeah,
and like learn his moves and stuff like that. But do they play kind of like the Budokai or Tenkaichi games? Because those are the ones that I used to play with my brothers a long, long time ago. We would play Budokai 3, where it had like 141 characters, and I would watch my older brother go through like the pit of 100 trials where he had to fight like constant barrage of enemies, and he would do it as Majin Vegeta. Is it anything like those older PS2 games?
Well, I don't know too much, as we discussed before the podcast here. I actually don't know too much about those games, because as a fighting game guy, when I tried those games earlier when I was younger, I just kind of bounced off them super hard. What I can tell you is this, the Xenoverse games, and they're good screw-around games, but they're not good competitive games, just so you know. But they're behind the shoulder. You're always behind the shoulder. Like, you auto-home in. You have a bunch of basic martial arts moves, plus you can have 3 special moves and a super.
Is it kind of like one of those... I know there's kind of arena fighters for a lot of anime games, like the Naruto ones. Is it kind of like that?
Once again, that is not my expertise. I like Dragon Ball, but I don't know the first thing about Naruto, and I know like a Naruto Shippuden and Ultimate Ninja Storm. I've heard of them, but I've never actually played them myself.
So onto Dragon Ball FighterZ.
All right.
So Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I'm really disappointed that this happened. It was announced at last year's E3, I believe, on the Microsoft panel.
Yep.
And it was leaked like just 4 days before then. I really wish that didn't happen, because that would have been absolutely insane.
Yeah. Well, that's the nature. There's almost impossible to keep stuff secret nowadays.
Yeah. But how does your first impression of Dragon Ball FighterZ compare to how you feel about it now that the game's been out for a few months?
Well, when I first originally played it, I played one of the open betas. And because I live in the middle of nowhere, so I don't have the ability to go to like trade shows or kind of events, copy events, and all that kind of stuff. First thing, like before even like me breaking down gameplay systems and all that, I'm like, oh wow, this is a really pretty game. That was my initial impression before anything else.
Because that's using the Guilty Gear engine, right? Where it's 3D models, but it looks like, oh, these look like 2D sprites, but something's like a little bit off, but they look like they look like an anime fighter sprite.
Yeah, they are full 3D models, and there's a lot of touch-ups on the 2D side. So when they are facing that one side, to make it look like a 2D fighter, there's actually a lot of hand-done work on each frame of animation to make it look extra 2D. and stuff like them purposely cutting the amount of frames of animation to make it look like a 2D character would move versus like hyper fluid and everything will look really weird.
Yep. It's a really, really nice looking game. Everything looks sharp. Everything looks... The explosions look fantastic. It sticks really, really well to the actual manga and anime. They take, like, every move that someone has... Well, probably, like, I'm sure that there's some characters that just have, like, a jab that's, you know, whatever. Yeah. But, like, 95% of the moves are taken directly from the anime or the manga. And it's really, really good at paying homage to Dragon Ball Z as a whole.
Yeah, it's a fantastic job at it. Like, this... It's definitely a big love letter to Dragon Ball.
And it's about time that it got an actual fighting game. So, really the only Dragon Ball fighting games that were big... I know that there was one on like the Super Nintendo and one on the DS.
There was Hyper Dimension,
Dragon
which
Ball
was...
FighterZ is...
Yeah. Hyper Dimension never got translated, so a lot of us who played it played the Japanese ROM on an emulator. That was like the only other true fighting game for Dragon Ball, like 2D style and all that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm a dark blue shitter at Dragon Ball FighterZ. Like, I think that means I win a fourth of my matches. Mm-hmm. But and that's fine with me because I just have a lot of fun just playing as, you know. When I get my ass whooped, I'm like, oh, that was really cool. That looked like good work on that Goku Black. You know, he really absolutely destroyed me. I should probably learn to not fall for his 2H.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it's like for me playing. I try and learn and do combos and stuff, but and so I'm kind of not qualified to answer this question here. But what seems to be like the general flow and gameplay of Dragon Ball FighterZ? Because I've seen Marvel vs. Capcom, and that's what I first thought it was like when I first started playing the game. And I've noticed that there's some differences between it. But do you know if it plays, what gameplay elements from Dragon Ball FighterZ are present that are just kind of generally across all 3v3 or anime fighters?
Well, it's obviously a very fast-paced game. It does have the homing dash, which kind of wrecks direct comparisons like Marvel and that kind of stuff, because the homing dash obviously lets you get in wherever you are on the screen. So Dragon Ball, for the most part, kind of plays like its own deal. Like, every character obviously has their own playstyles within that engine and that kind of spacing. But just the stuff like giant beams are readily apparent. You can burn a bar to get a full combo off a giant beam. The assists are not as strong as a Marvel vs. Capcom style game. That's why a lot of people complain about the Vegeta assist, because it's the only one that would be comparable to a Marvel game. But yeah, for the most part, honestly, it's kind of its own beast.
Yeah, so the general flow of Dragon Ball FighterZ kind of seems to be... Because Street Fighter seems to be more based around footsies.
Yeah, that's
Dragon
very
Ball
much...
FighterZ doesn't seem to be... I know that footsies does still exist, properly spacing, hitting whiff punishes, managing your assist, managing your bar. It seems to be more like Dragon Ball FighterZ is trying to get that filthy mix-up to then start that combo and do so much out of it.
Yeah,
is it more like that, or is it... Because like I said, I'm a dark blue shitter. I play Yamcha, Goku, and then whoever I hit random button on the machine for my third character. So I'm not too qualified to kind of explain this.
Well, what we call like the neutral game, that's a lot of the back and forth before anyone kind of hits anyone. Once again, the presence of the homing dash shows a lot of that usual style play out, because certain characters would be a lot stronger if there was no homing dash in this game, for example. But that said, a lot of it is just kind of fighting for positioning, and once you can finally lock that guy down for a split second, then you can get your mix-ups and stuff off. And that's kind of what everyone's fighting for, is... Just we're flitting around each other, trying to get the other guy in a compromising position, and once we got it, that's when the whole train starts.
Yeah, because the biggest problem I had with Marvel as a casual viewer was I would see, stuff all over the screen. Someone gets put into a combo that lasts for,
6 years.
45 seconds. Yeah. They lose their character, and they're immediately put in the blender.
Yeah.
So I really like when Dragon Ball FighterZ, when someone loses the character, you're both put back on that neutral game. They have that clash, then you jump to the opposite side of the screen.
That is actually one of my favorite things about it.
Okay, you lost the character. All right, back to normal.
We call those incoming mix-ups, and it actually still exists in this game. If you do what we call the Dragon Rush, the throw, and you can tag a guy out by force, then you can still get an incoming mix-up. But yeah, for the most part, it resets to neutral, and I don't dislike Marvel. In fact, I'm a big fan of Marvel Infinite, but the older Marvels I'm not as big of a fan of. And I do appreciate that this game, at least trying on paper, because there's been a lot of stuff found out since then, but on paper it wants to avoid some of the more greasy aspects of the Marvel game.
Mm-hmm. So, with Dragon Ball FighterZ, do you think that, and I know that there's going to be a big balance patch coming out sometime later this month, like maybe early May, but as it is right now, do you think the game's in kind of a healthy spot? Do you think it's in like real danger with viable characters, strategies, things like that? Do you think there's enough right now where the game could have some longevity with, variety and how it plays out, which characters are up front and things like that?
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying there are certain things that will be changed in the balance patch, which I'm not going to factor into this equation, because otherwise I would say no, absolutely not. Because stuff like damage scaling glitches and a lot of various touch of death stuff with Android 21, some other stuff that's being figured out. If the game didn't patch that stuff out, I would think this game would devolve into basically a degenerate, unplayable mess in 2 months. Because it's just going to get abused more and more and more and more as the time goes on, right? Now, that said, I guarantee you that stuff's getting patched out. So without taking that particular stuff into account, I do believe the game has legs as it stands. Although I would find that the viable character base would get shorter, not bigger. Because certain characters just simply better than other characters. That's just the only way to put it. And someone like Cell, there's no reason to ever pick a Krillin or Yamcha over Cell.
He's the perfect being.
And for my money, he's the pound for pound best character in the game. And you can pick most of the cast, and there's no reason on any team you can think of, no matter what your team's trying to accomplish, to pick most of the cast over Cell.
Why would I want Krillin when I can just have Cell?
Exactly.
Why would I play Piccolo when I can just play Goku Black? Piccolo can do a bunch of... Piccolo, has other stuff going on. He's got his Hellzone grenade mix-up. He's got all this stuff. But I can also just, land a punch.
Piccolo was getting a little bit popular for a bit, until effectively his Hellzone grenade mix-ups got, for lack of a better term, debunked. Because it turns out it was actually not difficult at all to get past them. If you just delay your wake up and then mash deflect, it literally gets past every permutation of the mix-up. Because you also cannot throw someone who's actively deflecting projectiles, so you couldn't even do that. So your high-low mid mix-up, it's all just in the garbage. So someone like Piccolo lost value as people got smarter and figured stuff out.
Because I know that some of the characters that are just the ones that I'm aware of that are just too good are Android 16. I believe Goku Black, Adult Gohan, Super Saiyan Vegeta, if he's just in the corner just using his assist.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a few others. I know that Broly and Bardock aren't too degenerate, but
Bardock's definitely a lot better off than Broly is right now. But yeah, notwithstanding the really broken stuff, which I know is getting patched out, if the game was just the way it was, I would say it would probably solidify down to 8 or 9 viable characters, and then everyone else would just be forgotten.
Because there's the best example of balance I've ever seen in a competitive game is Dota 2. Now, I believe it was the International, which, if you're not aware, the International is a fucking huge tournament.
Yeah, I know, it's the big boy of tournaments, yeah.
Yeah, it is multi-million for each team involved. Mm. And at the International 4, I believe, they had a 90% pick rate. You don't you don't play around with wacky fun strategies at the International. You play to win.
Yeah.
And they had 90% of the cast was played. And that is the best example of character viability I've ever seen. And I think the reason that it had that many is what Valve would do is they would look at who's being used and look at who's not being used and say, okay, these characters are not being used because these top ones outscale them. They're okay, if a character's way, way, way too good, we'll bring them down. But if they're just good, we'll just bring up these, we'll make these other characters a little bit better so that people can look at them, potentially be okay, you know what, I'm going to swap out this person for Goblin Techies, But then again, Dota also has, a team of 5 people and way more opportunities to do stuff than a 2D fighting game. But I feel like every competitive game should try to have as much character viability as they can.
Oh, absolutely.
If only because as a casual guy, it's just more interesting, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. The one thing I'll give them is Arc System Works has never made a game on this style of gameplay ever before. So I guarantee you half the things that have been figured out is stuff they've never anticipated about. So I actually have, I'm not going to say I have complete faith. And once again, for anyone listening, I have no advanced knowledge of what's in the balance patch. So I don't know what's going to happen. But as it currently stands, I have no reason but to not have faith in it. And I would hope it would increase the general, make more characters viable. The way I would like balance to work is you don't cripple the top characters just because they're the top characters, but you balance everyone else up. You balance up your Krillins and
look at someone like Cell, I guess, and then try to make everyone about as good as Cell, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it won't work 1-to-1 like that way, because someone like Nappa or Beerus, that change list would have to be 2 pages long to make them as good as Cell. So maybe not quite to that, but the top characters, just not tag them down a notch, but not just cripple the character, and bring up the other characters to just nonstop buffs. And once again, I'm not privy to what the balance patch will be, but as it stands, I'm very optimistic for it, and I think it'll be good for the general health of the game.
Yep. I'm really looking forward to... I actually got tickets to EVO this year, and I did enter Dragonball FighterZ.
Oh, okay, that's good.
I'll immediately drown in pools, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens and seeing what because EVO is the first big Dragon Ball FighterZ tournament, right? I know there's been a few. There's been the Summit of Power.
Yeah, well, that's an invitational. That's not a public event, yeah.
Yeah, because EVO is public, because technically anyone who's good enough can just enter.
And that's what I like about fighting games versus what you mentioned, Dota and all that, right? So EVO is the absolute biggest event of all fighting games every year. And unlike your international, anyone can show up. Anyone can put down their entry fee, and they have an equal chance to win by their own merits as a top pro player would. Which my understanding in the MOBA scene is not how it works. You have to be invited.
Yeah, I know that Capcom Fighters also has a thing kind of like that.
Yeah, the Capcom Pro Tour, and each tournament has is weighted by points. And if you do well at all these community tournaments, then you'll be allowed in the invitational. But you still have to go to community events where anyone can join to make it to that invitational.
So Dragon Ball FighterZ should be fun. I really hope that it stays for a long... Because how long was Marvel 3 at main stage EVO? Because it came out
Marvel 3 was main stage last year, so last year would be this last year. So it started in 09, late 09, or was it early 10? So it had a good 8 years as a top tier game.
Because there was also, Ultimate Marvel 3. And,
for a lot of people, that's a direct continuation. We don't make delineation between the two. It's just Marvel 3 either way.
But speaking of Marvel, so Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite did come out in September of last year, and it's not at main stage EVO. What happened?
Okay, so...
What happened to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite?
Now, this is my perspective as a member of the FGC, and also... I helped make my name with my backing of Marvel Infinite, just so you know where I'm standing on this. There's a lot of elements in the community who, and this is not just the fighting community, but as a whole, people love to dogpile on what they perceive as a failure. And Marvel Infinite definitely has shortcomings, absolutely, but none of them, at least to me, are on the gameplay end of things. And to me, as a fighting game player, that is the only thing that should matter, is the gameplay. And I think Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite has some of the best gameplay you'll have in any modern fighter. But a lot of people fixate on stuff like Chun-Li's face, or Wolverine's not in the game. And it does suck. Wolverine, Magneto, and all that are not in the game. I'm disappointed by that. But a lot of people dogpile on it, and I feel it's been much more maligned than it should be by any stretch.
Yeah, because now that you mention it, really, everything I've heard about the game has been supplemental stuff, where Marvel was making it sound in the trailers, Marvel characters couldn't be seen getting beaten up.
Yeah.
Or they were kind of pushing the Infinity Gauntlets and kind of doing the whole, pushing towards that Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff.
Yeah, and on top of that, too, there's a lot of people who are at fault on various levels of professional and community side of the thing. But Disney helped shoot it in the leg. And Mr. Wizard, who runs Evo, also basically shot it in the other leg.
By not putting it at main stage.
It doesn't cost him a dime otherwise, right? So it's his choice to make, and he made it. I can't speak for him. But there's a lot of outside forces basically trying to handicap the game. So I'm not going to say it was destined for failure, but I had a lot working against it from the start, and people focusing on issues that weren't gameplay, like, Chun-Li's face, which, once again, it was very stupid and bad, and, no one liked it, and they shouldn't have to like it. But once again, I just think that's an actual fantastic game, and I feel it's somewhat maligned for the wrong reasons.
Do you feel like it, years down the line, it might get picked up? Because I don't think that there's going to be another Marvel vs. Capcom for a while. Do you think it might be a case where years down the line, people will stop caring about this thing and they start looking at it again? Do you think it might have a kind of resurgence if Marvel gets back into popularity and people are kind of looking at it? Do you think that might be a case?
Honestly, and this is my opinion only, I think it basically got Street Fighter versus Tekken and it's dumpstered.
Yeah, I heard bad things about Street Fighter versus Tekken.
As far as I know, and once again, I can't corroborate this because this is me talking to people who talk to people who know, right? But basically, no one at Capcom wants to touch it with a 10-foot pole now. That's my understanding. And Disney's actively going out of their way to disown it, on the competitive, not because of the controversy surrounding it. They were going out of their way to disown it from the start.
Ooh.
So, almost seems like a destined to fail situation.
Yeah. So another question I wanted to ask, how do you feel about kind of these alternate fighting games that have been coming up? You've got games like Smash, which have been around for a while, and as much as people want to say, Smash isn't a fighting game, it's whatever, whatever. Yeah. You got things like Dive Kick. Dive Kick's more of a gimmicky joke thing.
Oh, no, it literally was made off a joke. It was literally made off a joke, and then the willpower was put behind it and then became an actual game.
And you've got things like Fantasy Strike. Do you know what that game is?
Yeah, it's David Sirlin's game. I never got the chance to play it, but I do know about Fantasy Strike.
Yeah, now from my perspective, I think it's a good idea. Every genre and type of game should be open to people innovating it and trying brand new things. Which is why I always get a little frustrated. People look at a game like Smash or any of these other games that try and change up a fighting game formula, and then they just kind of look at it and just go, ugh, and kind of disown it, Yeah. Do you think any of these games kind of... Cause a traditional fighting game, it feels like there's pretty much only two. There is the 2D plane, and then there's the really janky feeling 3D of something like Soul Calibur or Tekken. And then nothing else seems to have really gotten popular. Do you think that's just because people aren't willing to... Because in something if you're a big player at Marvel, that's your game, those skills from Marvel that you've learned, those general skills, can also be applied to a bit of Street Fighter.
You can apply it to Street Fighter, you can apply it to Dragon Ball, you can apply it to Skullgirls, a lot of
Do you think that might be part of it, where it's just if there's something that's brand new, I have to learn the whole skill set all over again?
Well, this is how I look at it, and I'll look at it this way, right? So a lot of what you learn in fighting games in general, you mentioned Soul Calibur, you can learn stuff in Soul Calibur that will directly apply to Mortal Kombat or apply to Street Fighter, that would apply to Virtua Fighter, that would apply to Tekken, that would apply to Marvel, right? A lot of these concepts and all that. But very little of that applies to Smash, for example, because Smash is just such a different thing. It is still a competitive game. There's a shared DNA in all these other fighting games that just does not work with Smash. So you can play Soul Calibur and you can learn all sorts of techniques and all that can directly apply to Street Fighter, which is a completely different game, 2D versus 3D, right? But there is somewhat of a shared DNA that both games can follow, but doesn't work on Smash. It's just such a different beast. And as for like your Fantasy Strikes and all that, they're just trying to reinvent the wheel, trying to make fighting games easier. Because like fighting games are basically the house that Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat 2 built. And there's a lot of depth to both of those games, and I know people don't like to give Mortal Kombat its due, but even Mortal Kombat 2 had a lot of depth that people don't appreciate in the modern day. But they were the ultimate, like, you know, easy to learn, hard to master kind of games, right?
Yeah, that's why it seems like there's this struggle for new games to try and balance accessibility with depth and like interest. And I know there was that game that was pushed at Evo pretty hard. Oh god, it was the game with robots.
Rising Thunder. Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and I'm not sure if you're aware of that, or maybe people are listening aware of this. So Riot Games, people make League of Legends, bought out the Rising Thunder people, and they've also.
I thought like. I see the trail of thought for Riot Games there, because, you know, League of Legends is they bought League of Legends into eSports. You know, it's a huge thing, and I can kind of see them thinking like, okay, well, let's try this again with fighting games. But then I don't think I've heard anything about it ever.
Well, that's
since.
the thing. Unless you're more on like my end of the spectrum, you wouldn't know about this. But Riot have also bought out several other smaller fighting game team developers, so they've been quietly kind of amassing their own little. Fighting game development team. So I don't this could be years in the future, I have no idea, but I think, you know, you don't buy a bunch of fighting game people without wanting to make a fighting game, right? So I think in the future there might be, I don't know if it'd be League of Legends based or whatever. I know they have very colorful characters and all that, like even I know who Teemo is, right? So I don't know if Riot will make a fighting game, but if they did, I think because obviously like the Dota and the League of Legends, like maybe those games aren't accessible, but they're sure as crap popular. So they could help bring in a whole new audience if they tried their hand at that.
Yeah, that could be pretty interesting because, I mean, people like to harp on League of Legends, but like they did a really good job of, like, I mean, Dota was a really, really small thing. It was only played by hardcore people. League of Legends came out. It didn't compromise that much. And it brought, you know, MOBAs, hero brawlers, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
There was a good period in my life where every single person I knew was playing League of Legends. So.
Yep. My freaking high school quote for my yearbook is a goddamn reference to that Dunk Master Yi video, you know?
Oh, I know that, actually. I know, yeah. Master Yi, like, here's the thing. I don't know much about League, right? And maybe things have changed, but I do know Master Yi is the character Scrubs love to pick.
Yep. Because he's easy, he does a ton of damage, and he's bullshit, and I hate Master Yi.
Yeah, see, so even me, right? So, like, if you get someone who doesn't know nothing about the MOBAs, and even I know this stuff, right? That's the reach these guys could have if they want to do, like, a League of Legends fighting game.
And so, now here's the thing. So, the fighting game community is, like, a whole unique beast.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, thinking about the fighting game community, it's something that I've noticed is that it feels like anyone... Like, the fighting game community will accept anyone. It doesn't matter, you know, where you're from, how old you are, if you're gay, straight, trans, non-binary, color of your skin. None of that matters. It seems like the only thing that matters is, like, are you good? Are you good at Marvel? You know, that seems to be, like, all that matters.
It doesn't even matter if you were good. It's more on my, like, you know, on my side of the thing on, I guess it would call it the higher end. But it's not if you're good, it's are you willing to try to get good? That's what really matters. Like, if you're good or not everyone can be good, right? But as long as you put in the effort, that's what really matters to a lot of us.
Yeah, if you're not going to scrub out and say, like, it took me 17 hours in Dragon Ball FighterZ to win my first match online, but I didn't give up, you know? Yeah. I would lose and think, okay, what did I do wrong here? Okay, that's right. Wolfang Fist is actually not safe on block. I probably shouldn't throw it out from the other side of the screen.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, you know, putting forth the effort in there, and the thing about that, like, the level of respect that I see from fighting game players to people who are willing to put in time and actually try seems to be a lot higher than most other video game communities that I know of.
Yeah.
You know, like, if I look at people who play a lot of first-person shooters or MOBAs, it's not... That doesn't seem to be a large part of it, where they're not willing to, like, It's kind of weird to like put it into words, you know.
No, I know what you mean. Like kind of like especially a lot of the team-based game atmosphere. It's always, oh, we lost because you weren't pulling your weight, kind of thing. Like I noticed a lot of people who come from a team game background are very keen to blame everything but themselves. And when you lose in a fighting game, for the most part, you lost because of you. That's the only thing you can really throw at yourself is you lost because of you.
Well, I mean, I can also just say, well, you're just playing top-tier characters.
Yeah, well, that too. And
I can find something to latch onto.
Yeah, you can blame the lag. And like I had a guy who was very high rank on one of my most recent streams. He rage quit in the middle of the match, and he blamed me of being a lag switcher. Like that doesn't escape even when you're good sometimes. Like people will be prone to complaining, but
yeah, so I know that eSports has gotten to be really, really big recently. Fighting game community is really big. It's would you say it's one of like the main pillars of eSports as a whole? I would say like fighting games and then first-person shooters were really, really big back in like early 2000, and then I guess now MOBAs and things like that. It seems eSports has gotten super popular.
When you want to look at the eSports perspective, fighting games are, for lack of a better term, the most poverty. There is the least amount of money in fighting games versus any of those other eSports things. But the thing is with fighting games is they predate eSports, right? Like they were around, before anything else. The first competitive games were fighting games, and like I don't think esports is a fad or nothing because I think it's around to stay. But fighting games were around before esports, and if for whatever reason esports dries up, competitive fighting games will be around after esports. Like it is the one constant of there's always fighting games because it is the type of game more than any other kind of game that leads itself to competitive play because it's me versus you. That's like the foundation of competitiveness, period, right?
Yeah, it's me versus you, one-on-one, very, if any, very, very little randomness into how they're going, how we're going against each other. Yeah. It's purely skill-based.
Yeah, and like a lot of thought process and like obviously reflexes matter quite a bit because that's a big core thing. But you look at the average age of a competitive fighting game player and you compare it to the average age of a MOBA player or a FPS player, and the fighting game player is going to usually skew a lot older. Like I know, like competitive StarCraft, competitive RTS. By the time you're 25, you're too old. Like
too old, yeah,
because your reflexes aren't going to be fast enough. Yeah. Like for me, as someone who's in his mid 30s, if you want to be competitive in fighting games and you're 25, like you're just getting started. Like you're a guppy, like you got so much more to learn. Like you just started, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I have. I see that there's Capcom, especially with Street Fighter V, has been trying to pump more and more money into esports.
The Capcom Pro Tour is the single biggest payout for fighting games of all time. And even then, it's still nothing.
What's wrong with the Capcom Tour?
Sorry?
Oh, I thought you said the single greatest failure.
Oh, no. I'm saying it's the greatest payout. Like,
okay, I was going to say, I'm like, damn, what did I miss?
No. There are things to criticize about it, but that's not here or there. But even then, like, $500,000 payout is still chump change compared to Dota, right?
Yeah. With your freaking $85 million pool.
Yeah.
There's that E-League show where it's like a weird... It's like a reality television show. They had Low Tier God on there.
Yeah,
that's Street Fighter V. It's weird.
Basically despicable of them. Like, I don't want to go too much into it, but he's an awful human being. Like, not just like the whole rage quit stuff and all that. I mean, the quality of him as a human being is awful, and I don't know why they rewarded him with being on TV.
I must just be because he's a name that people know.
I guess it's because he's
just
controversial.
Like Darkside Phil.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Darkside Phil has a lot of things to rip on him for and all that stuff, but he's still a better human being than Low Tier God is.
One of the major things that really got me into fighting games was, Street Fighter 4 was happening. I'm watching Evo with my friends. They're playing casuals back and forth, and you the show Excellent Adventures?
Oh yeah, Gutex and Mike Ross. Yeah.
Yep, Gutex and Mike Ross. There's something like they were so genuine and really like excited for Street Fighter that it like kept me interested, and I would watch their stuff. I would watch them.
They brought in a lot of people
because they're fun personalities.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, esports seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and with that, there's some. So there's sponsorships for players and things like that, and that really got me thinking about. There's one player who stands out amongst a lot of other players. His name is Sonic Fox.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic player, and I believe he plays NetherRealm games like Injustice and Mortal Kombat. And I think he also plays Skullgirls in Dragonball FighterZ.
Yes.
And for those who really don't know, he's also a very public furry and like has a fursuit, wears a hat, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like this weird point of contention for a lot of people with him and like esports and like professionalism and things like that. What's interesting to me is that Sonic Fox is like allowed to go up on stream and wear his wear parts of his costume. I remember I think it was Mortal Kombat last year. He had like the hat and the tail and he was up there, but he absolutely destroyed everyone as the cowboy guy.
Yeah,
I don't
Aaron
remember
Black.
the cowboy's name.
Yeah, Aaron Black.
And he went up there and it's just like, well, shit, I can't say anything. He's a god. He's godlike.
Yeah, in my opinion, he is the best pound-for-pound fighting game player of all time. He is not.
Time.
A lot of people say like, oh, Tokido or something like that, right? But Tokido's only been like the best at certain points, at certain games, right? The dominance of Sonic Fox over so many different games, just can't be matched.
What was his name? Daigo. I know that he's a really big name for Street Fighter.
Daigo is my personal hero.
Is he still around?
Yeah, he's still around. He's my personal hero. But he's only, and he played like Darkstalkers and stuff back in the day and a little bit of Guilty Gear, but he's primarily a Street Fighter focused guy.
And Sonic Fox here, I mean, just between those three games, Injustice and Mortal Kombat, those are kind of samey, same developer, so.
They're very different playing games. Yeah, I can name a bunch of like small tier anime fighter games you never heard of. He's also the best at those. He is the best at a lot. He's also amazing Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite for one. He never tried Street Fighter V much, but his only Street Fighter V appearance, he made top 8 with what's considered to be the worst character in the game at the time. Like,
was it Fang?
Yeah, he played Fang and got top 8 in his first ever Street Fighter V tournament.
Yes! I love Fang. He's awesome. I only played Street Fighter for a little bit, but I really liked Fang.
He is a true prodigy by every definition of the word, because no one else can match that many different games and still be the top or near the top player.
And so that's where like a lot of people feel. I find him doing like wearing a fursuit, wearing the fur stuff to be uncomfortable to me because I don't think he's doing it to like intentionally be aggravating or like do things like that. I don't think he's doing it to make people feel uncomfortable. I think he's doing it just because that's part of who he is.
Oh, he's a very silly man.
But like to me, like I see it, and when I see that, I associate it with like furry fandom and stuff like that, which is like that's all like fetish stuff. That's what I see it as, and it's like, well, I feel like there's a time and a place for this, Mr. Sonic Fox, and I don't think it's now, but you're also way better than me at Mortal Kombat, so I can't really say anything.
You said earlier on the fighting game community is super inclusive, and as far as I'm concerned, at least me personally, I can't speak for nobody else. Unless you're actively screwing around with me, either physically or yelling at me or whatever, I just don't give a crap. Like, do what you got to do, right? Like, there's no other community in competitive gaming that's even as racially diverse as fighting games, right? Like, I look at a MOBA team, and it's like 90% Asian guys and 10% white guys. Like, fighting games, you go to any given fighting game tournaments, you got everyone, every permutation. You got people like Broly Legs. Broly Legs, if you've never seen or heard of him, was dealt about as bad of a card in life as you can get. He plays fighting games with his mouth and his tongue because his hands don't work very good, and the rest of the body, he needs a mobility chair to move around. And he's a master rank Chun-Li in Street Fighter V, right? It's one of those things like, you don't got no excuse. Like, if he can put in the time and play with his mouth and his tongue and become a master rank Chun-Li player, what's your excuse, So for me...
Yeah, like, don't make no excuse. Well, I don't have a fight stick. Nah, just Yeah, you're putting this up for yourself. You know, you're not you're not willing to do the work.
Well, I know there's a big culture of people trying to get offended for the sake of being offended on the internet, but like I've seen people call it games for being ableist or whatever the term is. And like, this guy's got about as bad of a hand in life as you can be dealt, and he's one of the better Chun-Lis in North America. So, like, whatever. But besides that, I'm saying, just to go to the point of how diverse the community is. So, the furry stuff is definitely not my bag. Like, I was born in a small town in Quebec. It's like 1,000 people. So I grew up in a very small town. Like, probably a different outlook in life than most people. Like, definitely not like the city outlook and all that. But like for me, it's just live and let live. I don't particularly care. As long as unless it's like he had like his fursuit hitting me or something while we're playing, then that's actively like messing with me. Then I wouldn't like that.
Yeah. One last thing about fighting games. For eSports, do you think that so Evo is already like a big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you've got things like the Overwatch League,
yeah,
which is Blizzard right behind it, pushing them forward to try and be super buttoned up and professional. Do you think fighting games could or even should be taken up to that level of a professional? Like, we're very serious. We're all wearing sports jackets. We're all doing this. We're talking about play-by-play. Do you think that fighting games should stay? I think Evo is kind of like the perfect level where there's money in it for people who are putting it in there, to reward them for their time and all that, but it's not as corporate as something like the Overwatch League.
Well, that's been one of the big fights over the years. Like, maybe the biggest fight about the whole thing is, once again, as I said, fighting games competitive community predates all this esports stuff. Like, even like the earliest esports stuff of like people playing Halo on Xbox, right? The fighting game community was still around well before that. So a lot of people are scared that like if we get too corporate, we lose essence of what the fighting game community is. It's hard to say because like I am a competitive player, absolutely, but I've never been able to been part of the tournament scene due to the fact I live in a very remote place and travel is incredibly expensive for me. So I've never been able to take part of really on that end of things. So I don't know if my opinion would be as valid as some other people on that respect who get to travel to every tournament. But for the most part, like none of the sponsors except for Echo Fox force you to wear their stuff, as far as I know. So it's case by case basis. But if you want the big bucks at some point, you're gonna have to class up a little bit. That's just the way it works. So
they don't want you going up there being a jackass if you've got Red Bull on your shoulder.
Exactly, because then it'll just drop you and you'll lose your money. So there's a financial incentive to class up. That said, I don't think it'll ever quite as like the MOBA scene where I see people like in like super like basically soccer jerseys and all that kind of stuff for everyone. Because like I've seen plenty of top 8 finals where you have like a guy in an Echo Fox shirt or something and just some guy in like t-shirt and jeans, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to lose that aspect of things because like the more we get to that kind of stuff, it loses the fact that the fighting community is, once again, anyone can show up. As long as you paid your $10 for entry fee or whatever, you are just as valid as a player Sonic Fox till you win or lose, right? Because that's all that really matters is who wins and who loses. I don't like the corporate aspect as much, but I do think eventually, I don't think it'll be quite as buttoned up as their MOBAs and all that, but it probably will lean more in that direction.
So to close on out here, I've got a few more questions about Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Sure, absolutely.
The number one, why is the World Tournament theme so fucking good? Oh my god, it is. I'll go into training mode and just kind of like stop pressing buttons for a while because the theme is just so spicy.
Well, that one you can directly attribute to Arc System Works. I don't know if you know much about the other games, but BlazBlue and Guilty Gear and all their permutations thereof have some of the best soundtracks in gaming, period, not just fighting games. So the people who are the musical composers at Arc System Works are very talented people, to say the least.
Yeah, they also made Birthday Trade, which at first time I heard Birthday Trade, I was like, what is this? But now, like, I unironically enjoy Birthday Trade. If you don't know what it is, go look it up. It's a pretty fantastic song.
All right.
All right, so this question here. So the cast in Dragon Ball FighterZ is already, like, pretty good. But if there's any other character left, who would you like to get added into Dragon Ball FighterZ? Now, for me, I haven't gotten to the Tournament of Power yet, but I know that there are some really cool characters in it. just from what I've seen from like the sidelines. I would like Hercule to be in Dragon Ball FighterZ, but I don't think they could keep him true to his character. You know, they could do some wacky stuff like when you do Vanish. A cardboard cutout falls and there's a puff of smoke, but you know, I feel like it wouldn't fit that much.
Yeah.
I mean, alternatively, someone like Videl would be really fun, but I don't know if she has like the move set, you know?
Yeah.
I know that a lot of recent fighting games are going with like wacky guest characters. You got Geralt in Soul Calibur 5. Fucking Soul Calibur had Yoda and Darth Vader in it.
Yeah, Yoda, and you know what?
You know, you have stuff like that.
That stuff works because that sells copies of games, so I can't fault him for that stuff.
But like for Dragon Ball FighterZ, I really wouldn't want them to have a wacky guest character.
No.
You know? I think it's because it's like, this is the first one. You know, the first Soul Calibur, I don't think it had any wacky guest characters. Although it might have. I don't know. Soul Calibur is a weird game. But,
well, for me, I kind of got three answers for that. One who I do want to see in the game, but it's obvious it'll happen eventually. The next, because now they just announced as the time of this recording, Fuse Zamasu and Vegito Blue were just announced.
Yeah, Vegito Blue, by the way, looks awesome.
Yeah, he does look fantastic. And we know for a fact the next characters are Cooler, Android 17, and Base Goku and Base Vegeta. I can basically guarantee you there will be a Season 2 of character DLC, and in which I guarantee you Jiren would be part of it. Kind of the big... well, I don't want to call him a villain, because he's not a villain. Goku's more of a villain than Jiren is.
Antagonist.
Yeah, antagonist. That's the perfect word for it. Antagonist of the Tournament Power Arc. A character I was utterly surprised was not in the game was Roshi.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Master Roshi has the thing where he refuses to fly because that's a crane school technique, I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
But even then, who cares? Like, just have him do the homing dashes and flying. Who cares? Like,
yeah,
screw
it's
it.
him charging at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I was pretty surprised about, because Master Roshi's the dude. Like, you could see his level 3s, you just see original Kamehameha, you know?
Now, as for characters I would like to see in the game that probably won't make in the game, but I would still like to see them. One's very far-flung. I would like to see Bulma, specifically. There's a lot of, like, mechs and stuff, like Dr. Wheelo and other stuff in Dragon Ball. So I'd like to see, like, Bulma in, like, a mech, like a Saiyan Buster mech. Like, you know, have the Hulk Buster.
Fun.
Yeah.
I know. I really like the mech designs in Dragon Ball where they all have, like, the big dome glass face pieces and stuff.
Yeah, and, like...
They're all, like... The Dragon Ball mechs look different than, like, any other mechs. Like, you know, you've got, like, American mechs where they're, like, big iron metal squares. You got Japanese Gundams. Nothing really looks like the Dragon Ball mechs.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
they
like,
got a nice look.
That could actually be pretty fun.
And there's a proud history of mech characters, especially in the Versus series, right? Like Tron Bonne and Sentinel, who's one of the most famous fighting game characters of all time. But now, as for someone I'd like to see who has a chance, Zarbon. Zarbon, I think...
When I was little, I always got it mixed up. I just thought Zarbon and Dodoria and them were just part of the Ginyu Force.
Yeah, well, it's fair enough.
It just all melded together for me.
But Zarbon, I think, could be a super interesting character. Like, he obviously has two different forms. The one's, like, very elegant and, like, you know, graceful. The other one's just a pure, like, crush, beat down brute. And
you
between
got the
that...
Vega and your Balrog.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know if they want to make him, like, a stance character or whatever, but I feel like there's a great material to mine for just, like, a pure fighting game character moveset out of everything Zarbon is.
Like, they're really not missing anyone big.
Well, you can always mine deeper, like, you know, where's, oh god, why am I forgetting his name now? Dabura. You know, like, Dabura's got tons of moveset you can easily translate into a game. Since they put Broly in, they're obviously not opposed to the movie characters, so where's, why am I blanking on names now? Janemba. You know, like, there's still way more you can go with.
Where's Garlic Jr.? Come on, Arxis. Where's Garlic Jr.?
Garlic Jr. wouldn't be a bad pick, because much like the Zarbon thing, you got Lil Garlic Jr. and you got Hulk Garlic Jr. And then I could easily see his level 3 is like opening the dead zone or something like that. It totally would work.
Now, there's only one scenario which I'd be okay with a guest character. So it's E3 2018. Let's go dim. You see a Smash Bros. Logo show up on the screen, and Goku just instant transmissions onto the World Tournament stage. Then Mario hops down. And Goku's in Smash and Mario's in Dragon Ball FighterZ. It's the only instance where I'd be okay with it.
But then again...
Just for the insanity.
Like, they put Cloud in Smash Brothers, and Cloud was never on Nintendo platform till Smash Brothers, so who knows?
So we had a previous podcast episode where we had like 3 different tiers of characters wanted in Smash Bros. And the final one, it was obviously one of them was Goku. Then the other one, because we had like tier of probable, maybe, and then Goku tier. Mm-hmm. And real shit, you hear. So I'm going to tell you here, I'm going to restate it for everyone here. Popeye the Sailor Man he has a non-0% chance to be in Smash, even over Goku, because Nintendo exists because of Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong exists because of Popeye. Think about it.
Yeah, that's fair enough to say, I suppose.
It's the only way they can make the new Smash Bros. Like overhype Mega Man and Cloud Strife and all this crazy shit. But the last question I got here about Dragon Ball FighterZ,
sure,
as it kind of went off on a tangent about Smash Bros. For no reason. So besides another fighter, what is some side content you'd like to see added to the game? I know that with the art style, it's really hard to make character skins that aren't justified as a whole new character because you have to go through and pretty much make an entire new model.
Yeah.
That being said, like, I'd like to see a Great Saiyaman outfit for adult Gohan or even as a whole separate character. But the thing that I could see them actually doing that wouldn't be too hard would be, so you know the defaults, like, announcer pack that's like destructive finish, stuff like that. I'd like to see that just as a Hercule replacement voice pack, just to have Hercule just like do stuff, because I know that they have the announcer packs for spectating, which I'm sure Hercule probably has one. He's got to.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I mean, stages are also pretty cool. I'd like to see a stage on oh fuck yeah, no, they've pretty much got everything.
No, they're missing so many. Where's Kame House? Where's the Lookout? Where's Hyperbolic Time Chamber? Yeah, they're missing so many stages. Yeah. But for me, the most, and this is more by the numbers thing I'd love to see, online practice mode.
Oh, where you can have your friends hop in and hop out.
Because like that's a normal feature in NetherRealm games, like Mortal Kombat and Injustice and stuff. And there's so many times like people ask for help, and I wish I could just have them in practice mode with me. Because being in the match doesn't work, because eventually I'll kill your character trying to show you something. And then we got a rematch and all that other garbage. So I'd love to see that. Failing that, I wouldn't mind seeing it be for fun only, but for fun only, like one-on-one mode, like, you know, so you're basically playing like, you know, Guilty Gear or BlazBlue instead of like a tag game. I would find that pretty interesting. And also, and this is more just cinematic, I would like to see a lot more dramatic finishes. And more to the point, I just want to see, and this is a me thing, I would like to see Nappa Cyberman kill everyone. I don't care if it's just Yamcha.
Everyone have that pose.
Everyone's in the crater because of the Cybermen.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I was very disappointed with Broly is if you get his level 3 and it's a destructive finish, the explosion's still yellow. I don't know why they didn't change it to green.
Yeah, they do change it for some of them, but not that one.
Like Boo's are all pink.
Yeah.
You know, Boo's got his, his thing where he really, really hates you.
Yeah.
So that's pink. Kid Boo's got his explosion, that's pink. I mean, those are only. I think Android 21 also has pink, so maybe that's why they did it, because they could do it. They could apply it to 3 different characters.
It just seems like it's an RGB thing. You change the numbers.
Does Cooler have green stuff or blue? Because I really don't remember much about Cooler.
I barely remember those movies. Those movies are not good movies, so I never watched them many times. I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the game's pretty good. I really like the party mode. If you've never given that a chance, it's 3v3, but each person, there's 6 players, so each person plays one. That's actually a lot of fun to do. Like, if
I did try it once, and the one time I tried it was way too laggy. So,
yeah, like it's if you have a party of friends and you guys don't want to keep waiting for normal matches, you can just hop in there and just fuck around for a bit. You can have if you've got 3 people over. You know, if you got 3 people over at your house, you're like, well, we can't do, we don't want to do one-on-ones. Let's go into party mode, put all 3 of us on one side, and then look online, and it's just a fun casual mode. I would like to see a story mode that's more interesting than the one they gave.
Yeah.
Which the one that they gave is just like, here's a bunch of quick practice matches with a lot of loading screens in between.
Yeah, it's basically just here's a lot of grind and the odd fan service moment.
Yeah, like I like those things where you would have the characters talking to each other, but it felt like it was a thing they added kind of last minute. Like they had the idea for the character interactions, but then they just like were whatever. And then another really, really small thing, this is the final thing that I could even think of, would just be more end of match quotes and actions. Like Boo only has one where he falls asleep, and then he just has like 3 voice lines after that. They don't change. He doesn't have like anything. Just give Boo some more stuff. He doesn't say anything at all. He doesn't have anything.
Yeah,
it sucks.
I do notice there's a distinct lack. Like a lot of the teams I play, I mostly have my teams delineated into a Nappa team or a Broly team, and the Nappa team has Vegeta on it. And if Nappa wins, he only talks about Vegeta, and if Vegeta wins, he only dunks on Nappa. Like, there's very little variation.
Yeah, and then I can't believe I will skip past like the most important question I had written down here. So, little Timmy fighting fan picks up a controller, right? He's he's never played a fighting game before. He likes Dragonball FighterZ. What he's the best at auto combo mashing to victory against his friends, right?
Yeah.
He can super dash because he knows that it's impossible to stop and no one can do anything. He goes to a local and he gets absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, he tries to super dash, someone hits him for like a 90, touch of death combos his character.
Mm-hmm.
How would you start? What advice would you give to little Timmy to start fixing any bad habits that he's gotten from playing at a very casual level and start to understand, like break it down and then work back up to actually understanding how to play the game and learning to be competitive about it?
All right, well, then I'm going to shill on the first thing. The first thing you do is go to youtube.com/Rooflemonger and watch the videos, I guess. But besides that, one of the biggest things, like he plays with friends, and say you're the best of your current like friend group or whatever. What you need to do is, and obviously going to locals and fighting pros or semi-pros and getting crushed. There is value in losing, but sometimes if you lose and you don't know why you lost because the other guy's so far above you, there's not maybe as much value in that. So there's all sorts of communities, all sorts around the internet. You can go to Dustloop, Shoryuken.com, TestYourMight.com, find all sorts of people who are varying levels of skill level, and find someone who's close to your skill level, maybe a little bit above, a little bit below you, and just play a lot of games with them. When you're a lot better than someone else, you will find yourself falling into very bad habits very quickly, and you'll not be challenged to learn or better yourself. But once you can find people who are not just pushovers, that's like basically the next level. To find people who are within a variance, either a little bit less or a little bit better of you, is how you grow as a player.
Yeah, it's that's really good advice. Like I said, I spent a ton of time just losing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But in those losing matches, I'd be like, okay, well, this move, one of my friends, Dan, we had an episode with him when the game first came out, and then he was talking a lot about like going into training mode, getting frame data, and things like that. And I disagree a little bit about the frame data because I think at the very, very start, knowing that this move, I am safe to use it on block if I cancel it into another move, or this move is dangerous. That's very, very important to know. But I think from a very start,
no, if you're at more of a beginner level, like little Timmy, from the very beginning, I don't think you want to go right into frame data. No, that's many steps removed.
Yeah, I think at my skill level is when I should start looking into frame data, where like I understand the pros and cons of most of the mechanics of what I can do. I know like spacing myself. I know to keep myself. I'm at that level where I know some really, really bad combos, and so it's like, okay, at this point, now I can either go on YouTube and start looking up all these combo videos, or I can start going, okay, now let's get the actual frame data so I know that when I do this move, I can turn it into one of my, crappy combos. Now that I've got that down, let's look at, like I've just gotten to the point now where I've started using assists to freaking extend my combos. After 40 hours of gameplay, I'm finally at the point where it's like, oh yeah, Goku can hit someone with his Kamehameha after I do the butt stomp as Majin Buu. I should be doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very big part of the game, yeah. In some characters it matters more than others. Like the characters I play, Broly and Nappa, they are very dependent on assists for extending their combos. But say someone like Cell doesn't care. Like Cell doesn't need assists for his combos for the most part. So the character you play will play a big part of that. But yeah, just a lot of it comes with just time, like just the things that are not obvious to you when you start out. Once you have some time in the game, you said it yourself, you start thinking of like other concepts, and just the more time you put in, the more like it will reveal itself to you. That's kind of one of the beauties of fighting games, is there's no, and I don't mean this to downput any games, other games by any stretch, but other fighting game or other competitive games, at least to me, just simply don't have the depth of a fighting game. So the more time you put in, the more will be revealed to you.
Yeah. I have a very clear memory of I was at work and I was sitting there and it just suddenly clicked with me that I knew a little bit of a combo from Yamcha from doing his combo trials.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like Wolfang Fist, and then you do the circle, and then you combine it to another Wolfang Fist. And I was thinking, I'm like, wait a second. How about instead of that, I just turn around and then hit him with a crouching medium and then jump, do the jump, hit him a few times, cancel into a jump. And I just started, because I knew that there were certain things that did work and I could do these loops. And I'm like, wait a second, I can connect these. And then, oh shit, that's how a combo works. Now I understand. You take all the small bits and if you look at a list that just says like all the inputs and you don't understand what you're looking at, it can look really intimidating.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But once you get to, you start at the very beginning where you learn your basic controls, and you take one step, and then another step, then another step, and then you start understanding how these combos work, how these things connect, and then it becomes, almost natural to understand, like, okay, this is how it does. Then it just becomes practice and execution, and like I said, just time.
I'll give you, I'm going to butcher the quote because I unfortunately don't remember it exactly one for one. But top-level Japanese player named Dogura, and Dogura has been a very strong player over all sorts of games over the years, right? And he said there's two types of fighting game players. There's the fighting game players who have the natural skill and talent and succeed through that. And there's the fighting game players who succeed through practice and hard work. He said, I don't have an ounce of skill. Don't have anything. But what I did have is practice and hard work. And that's why I can fight these top-level players who have all the natural skill in the world. So I'm butchering the quote a little bit, but that's it in a nutshell. You can be a Sonic Fox. He's absolutely a prodigy. He was basically born to be good at fighting games. But not everyone's going to be that, right? But if you do have practice and hard work, that's all that matters. Nobody, a lot of people dump on themselves saying oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And a lot of these people will be truly surprised if they just put in and you do got to put in the time and effort. And that part, it sucks and it does, it's not as fun sometimes. But if you do put in that time and that effort, you will always, always, always be rewarded.
And I think that's a good end point for the episode. I want to thank you for coming on here, Rooflemonger. Check out his videos if you're interested in Dragonball FighterZ, if you're interested in Marvel vs. Capcom, that's Street Fighter 2 as well, right?
All sorts of fighting games. In the future, I'll be covering Soul Calibur. I might cover the new Smash. I'm not sure yet. Mortal Kombat 11, whenever that comes out, and obviously Dragon Ball continue on in the future and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, all sorts of fighting game stuff.
Yeah, check him out. He's got a lot of really good videos. Like I said, I was introduced because of your explaining the neutral video where you explained this is you get into a game. You're right here. He's right here. Now what? Introducing what you could do on defense. Proper. Using reflects, because I actually didn't understand how the reflect mechanic worked at all because nothing explains it in game.
I'll tell you right now, man. Even at high level play, a lot of people just ignore it. And it's to their detriment because that's one of the things that and it's directly affected by the characters I play. But I reflect a lot of people into usually what you thought was your moment turns into my combo. And it's all on the back of deflect.
Yeah, so check them out. If you're interested and you want to get better at Dragon Ball FighterZ, you can find the podcast itself here on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, on Twitter, at Let Me Tell You PD. The website, which is letmetellyyouabout.moe, because letmetellyyouabout.com costs $3,000, or just the acronym LMTYA.com. We got a Discord in the description. There's a Patreon, all that good stuff. And once again, thanks for coming on to the show here. And hopefully I can fight you in Dragon Ball FighterZ at some point and not get my ass whooped.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I do appreciate it.